Greetings, Earthlings! Welcome to the Real Friends podcast. Today we are doing the quarterback rankings. This is post week 10, right after the dramatic game between the Broncos and the Bills. And we have Matt Hack joining us today. So welcome, Hack. We're gonna be running through this real quick for y'all. We've been focusing more on our main channel, so hit us up on that one. But we want to do a little quarterback ranking for y'all today. So let's get started. So number one is going to be Josh Allen. I've been very critical of this guy. He's very prone to interceptions. He has the most turnovers since 2018, and this is tough. I think I'm still going to put him in the him category, but I really do think he's like dropping even lower than like top 5, honestly. I posted that at the beginning of the season. I basically was like, hey, should we start having this like he's not even top 3, not top 2 conversation? I think he's falling. I mean, there's some other quarterbacks out there that are really, really good. I mean, you got the Herberts, the Lamars, the Jalen Hurts. Like, I don't know if Josh Allen is still in that top 3 tier. So I'll move to you now on Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I'll say quick on Josh Allen too, because he's still like up there top 3 as far as like numbers, as yards and things like that, like the positive numbers. But he has so many interceptions, so many turnovers, so many just like these weird plays that I think you would rather have someone who maybe has a 5%, not 5%, but a little bit less completion percentage, a little bit less yards, but less turnovers as well. I think that's a trade-off you
he's
want,
too
and
much.
that's really hurting him.
He's too much of a big play quarterback. He
Yep.
needs to, he needs to do more checkdowns and stuff like that, and it puts his team in issues when it doesn't, when they don't have to be that way. But the Bills are also play around him being the savior, so
Yeah.
that's how I feel. So Baker Mayfield, he's a controversial
Baker,
one.
I know. So I'm struggling between viable starters and mid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put him in viable starters because I think he's proven himself to be a player that you want. He's also just going to be a player that you use to kind of fill in when you need a quarterback. It's like, oh, let's go get Baker. So he's already jumped around the league a lot, and I think he'll continue the rest of his career. But he's still a very good quarterback.
Yeah.
So teams trading him or him signing somewhere else, teams not wanting to re-sign him, isn't a sign of him being a bad quarterback. It's just when you have to choose a direction, are we gonna go all in? He's not an all-in quarterback.
Yeah. Do you
And
think
so
he's the answer for the Bucks? Or
no,
I'll pose this question: do you think he's the starter next year on the Bucks?
you know,
Like, say
maybe.
they get the 15th pick. Do you think they go quarterback, or do you think they go a different direction?
I think they go a different direction. I think one thing that we've seen Baker, I think he's improved each year. I also think he's been in some not great situations. Like he's been a guy that's like, oh, let's throw him in,
Yeah.
but the team around him has
The
never been
Panthers
that
was
great.
not good. The Browns is
Y-
not great.
Yeah, and so I think seeing him on a team like the Bucks, where we thought the Bucks are going to be way worse than they are.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I'm not saying they're incredible, but at least me, I thought they were going to be a lot worse up to this point in the season, and so I think he's shown that he can be a starter, and if you build some pieces around him, you can compete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely agree. So I got Joe Burrow here. This is a guy. I mean, traded him for on my dynasty team here. He's my QB2 right now, and I put him over Josh Allen last year pretty early. I wanted to see early on. I'm usually not a guy to be like, all right, you're already QB2, but he's shown me enough at this point, and I'm not really worried about the little stints of issues, I guess, at the beginning of the season, whatever. I still just have a ton of faith in him. Come postseason and all that. Like it's a guy that you want to have the ball in his hands. So I'm gonna put him at him. So you got Derek Carr here, who for anyone watching, this is post Jameis era, but he did get hurt that game, so it's a tough one.
I don't know that I think he'll be a starter next year, but I would put him at 2024 backup.
Okay.
That may be too low. Like I think his
I don't know.
career maybe
Yeah.
deserves him to be mid, but just
Mhm.
how he's been currently. Like take out the rest of his career, how he's playing this year, and just the direction that they've had to go. I don't really see another route for him.
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just hard when you're getting replaced and your team's not winning and you're kind of underperforming. And yeah, you saw flashes of what you used to be, but you're not that person consistently.
Mhm.
I think you just have to look as an organization and say maybe we should just move on from Derek Carr.
Yeah. You see a lot of these older guys, they kind of diminish very fast. And
Yeah.
Derek Carr, I feel, was probably a top 15 quarterback about 2 years ago. And
Mhm.
now, I mean, I probably would have put him at mid, but I don't hate your concept either, especially with a lot of really good quarterbacks coming in the draft this year. The Saints have full reason to be the champions of that division, and
Yep.
it looks grim at this point. I wouldn't say grim, but like I don't know. I have
Mhm.
Matt Corral. We don't have to talk about him a lot. I will just say that like I never ever ever believed in him. So yeah, I don't even know what's going on with him. I actually kind of feel bad saying something like that, but like I never saw the NFL talent from him. Like yeah, I
Yep.
saw Panthers fans calling for him last season. I'm like, dude, this guy's not ready at all. And so, well, I don't know where he is right now, but he won't last. So
Yeah, he's going to be a guy that I think kind of like Baker that just moves around a lot, but I think won't ever reach that level that Baker is.
yeah,
Especially because Baker came into the league way more prepared to play, anyways. Dak Prescott. I am biased. I am going to say that up front. However, I think you have to put him in the him category.
okay,
Certainly low
yeah,
him. There's going to be quarterbacks in there that are better than he is, have a better resume, but how he's playing again, like we can definitely take last year and his interceptions and turnovers out of the picture. That's last year. We're looking at this year, and we're week 10 or post week 10, and he's putting up some of the best numbers he's had in his career, which has been a very good career thus far. As far as stats go, yeah, you can look at his wins in playoffs and you can whatever, you can talk about all that, but you can't deny that he gets it done most of the time, other than when it matters. But
yeah,
well, hopefully, hopefully that changes this year. I just like, I mean, he's starting to move more, which he's kind of getting back to what he used to be
yeah.
before some of these injuries the last few years.
He's not a pocket passer.
Yeah, he never has been. So he can
Mm,
once he now that he's getting used to extending the pocket, getting out of the pocket, using his feet a little bit more, sometimes even running it and getting that first down, like he looks good, and it buys his receivers time. And the Cowboys have great receivers, and so that little 1, 2, 3 extra seconds is going to do so much more and has done so much more. And so I think like make fun of him for his hip things, but you see that in the game, you see his hip movements to get that ball out when he's off balance, when he's throwing across his body, and it's done so well for him. And so, yeah, he's lower tier as far as the him quarterbacks, but I think currently you have to give him his respect right now.
yeah, he's playing out of his mind right now. Outside, like you remove that 49ers game, and I mean, it's kind of stupid to say, but at the same time, he'd only have like 2 interceptions and be throwing for 17 touchdowns or have, 19 total touchdowns, whatever it is. So he's
Mhm.
playing. I think he's playing MVP caliber right now. And I've always thought he was a top 10 quarterback. I'll put it that way. So I have Andy Dalton. Once again, it'll be real quick. I'm gonna put him behind Derek Carr, but viable backup, but forever backup from now on. So
Yeah.
you have Sam Darnold next.
Um, I guess 2024 backup as well.
You have
I,
him over or below Andy Dalton?
oh, over.
Okay. Yeah.
Again, I think this is another one where there's not that much to say.
Yeah. Not a lot of
He's
discussion here.
never reached his potential.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I
I
think
would
he'll
I,
have.
I would like to actually watch him for like one game with the 49ers.
Yeah, I think he'll have opportunities still in the league to prove himself, but currently, I don't think you could put him
Another
as a
guy
starter.
that has also been in very horrible situations as well. So
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. That's kind of what happens when you get drafted super high. We're seeing that with Bryce Young this year. So I got Daniel Jones. He's a tough one. I I don't know if he's like backup worthy. So for now, I'm just going to put him in the mid tier. I've always been very critical of Daniel Jones. I never really saw the hype, but once again, it's coming from two Cowboys fans. And I know his weapons and all that aren't the greatest, but you can see Brian Daboll's frustration throughout the season with Daniel Jones at quarterback. And if anything, he's like a very low starter is how I view him.
Yeah, I actually going into the season was pretty high on him. I wasn't Miles Thomas high on him, but
Yeah.
um, from what I had seen prior to this year, I really liked him. I would have put him viable starter, but yeah, with how the season's gone, it feels like he's taking a step back instead of another step forward.
So you got Justin Fields.
Put him at franchise QB.
All right.
Still obviously very early in his career, but I think he's shown that he's improved. Obviously, we haven't gotten to see a ton of him this year because of injuries, but I think it's clear that he's gotten better, and it's clear that he loves the game. It's clear that he has a drive and a passion to get better. His team loves him. His team rallies around him, and so he's a guy you want on your team. And I think he's going to be a quarterback for the Bears for a long time.
Yeah. So for those watching, I'm a huge Justin Fields stan, and I actually have a lot of Bears people on my Twitter, or not just, I don't follow them, but they just appear on my Twitter type thing. And they did a poll and they asked Bears fans who they want to draft. And like 80% of people said they wanted Marvin Harrison. So to me, that basically inclines that they have faith in Justin Fields because they could pick, Drake May or Caleb Williams or whatever. And so to me, that's the fan base saying, hey, we still believe in this guy. And so, yeah, I still think he's a franchise quarterback. I don't know if the Bears believe that, but I if anything, I think he gets another chance with another team like the Falcons or something. So I got Geno Smith. He's tough because he's on the tail end of his career. But this is a guy that I'm really big on. He's incredibly accurate. And I think just given how the rankings are going to go, I'm probably going to put him at franchise quarterback, and I'm going to put him ahead of Justin Fields. I think he's like right in that 10 to 15 area, and if all things go perfectly with the Seahawks, I think he can win a Super Bowl. That's kind of how I view him. So he doesn't have the incredible upside, but I think he's a very good game manager. Very similar to like Purdy. I think him and Purdy are like kind of similar right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I would agree. I don't want to add too much to that. And I do think, and maybe this was a little bit of the hype coming off of last year, but I've been a little bit disappointed in him at points this year. But 2 years ago, I wouldn't have said that. I would have been like, oh yeah, Geno Smith's looking really good. And then he had an incredible season last season. Which then coming into this season so far, been a little bit less impressed, but I agree with you.
Yeah. So you got Jared Goff, another guy that's really turned it on at the end of it, or not end of his career, but he's how old is he?
Yeah.
Like 29 or whatever.
I would put him at franchise QB.
Okay. Ahead of Geno or?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think he's shown, throughout most of his career, he's been good. And at times he's been great. So I think he obviously has his team looking really, really good. He's just, I think he's one of those guys that like, he's not in the limelight, but like, he's kind of like the embodiment of a quarterback to me. Like when I think of Jared Goff, I'm like, that dude's a quarterback.
Yeah.
I think he has a lot of things that he does well.
I'm thinking about it. CJ Stroud got a lot of Jared Goff, similarities, and they talked that way with CJ Stroud, kind of, and kind of saying that he's like the epitome of like what a quarterback looks like, type thing. So,
yeah, it's like it's hard for me to specifically like you can look at Justin Fields and say like, man, that guy can really run, and you can look at Geno Smith and say he's really accurate. You look at Jared Goff and I mean, maybe there's some things that he does like exceedingly well, but it's kind of like he's just overall this solid quarterback that you really can't find a ton of fault in. And so, I mean, obviously he's looking good last few years.
Yeah, he's been a guy I've always been hot on. I picked him in our dynasty league, and I always say this, like, let's remember this guy was a first overall pick. There's a reason why he's having success. Like, he had the talent coming out of college, and he got picked very young, and so now he's kind of like in the prime of his career, and so we're seeing
I love
it
to see how he's kind of redeemed his path in the NFL.
Yeah. So I got Heineke. This is probably a guy that both of us like a lot. I don't. He has limited upside, but I think he's a forever really great backup that you want on your team and just in general in your locker room. I personally would rather have him starting than Ritter on the Falcons, but like come next year, I just see him as more of like a backup. So I guess I don't know. I'm thinking now I might put him at mid. I mean, he's not. I'll just put.
I would put him mid. I'll put
him right here. Yeah. So you got Justin Herbert.
Okay, that's what I thought. From like back here,
4 eyes.
A little weird. Yeah. Okay. Need a new prescription. Justin Herbert, franchise QB. I think,
so he's not him.
I think you could put that argument in. This is where it gets a little tricky with like trying not to put the whole team into this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like as a team, man, it's so hard to watch them play. I think he's very, very, very good. But I also just have enough hesitation to put him at franchise QB, not at him. I think he could very easily, if you wanted to put him up there, I wouldn't argue with that.
Okay.
But I also think he should be. I'm trying to like word this correctly because I think he's very good, but I think as a team they've underperformed. Obviously, as a team, there's a lot around him that's just kind of dysfunctional, but and not working. And so, man, you see my struggle here. I'm like, because man, he's so good. I just also throughout his career, I've always felt that, and I know like wins aren't a QB stat, but I just feel like as a team they should be performing better with him at quarterback than they do. And I don't know.
I'm letting you ride with it because he's your quarterback, or like between the two of us.
Like
so.
you would know better than me. I think you watch him closer than I watch him.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like from my afar view. There's some other quarterbacks here that, like, obviously I pay more attention to. But, yeah, I mean, very, very good quarterback. Like I said, I just don't think he's him quite yet. Yeah. And I know you disagree.
I disagree. Yeah. But it's fine. I mean, I know people have your similar take, so I mean, I can't like hate on it. I think I think the Chargers are the problem, and they're not just surrounding him with good coach. Like I've been on Brandon Staley's neck for the past year and a half. I don't understand that at all. Even them like drafting Quentin Johnston. I know this is like another conversation, but yeah, I just think they've like failed him as a quarterback. Because I agree. I think he should be going toe to toe with a team like the Chiefs. But they look more like the Broncos. So I was thinking that because I might be on a Chargers podcast tomorrow, and that's kind of what I was going to say. It's like this is a team and a quarterback that needs to be playing against the Chiefs, but they actually look. You could make a case that the Chargers are the worst team in their own division, which is disgusting and scary. So I have Hendon Hooker. He's coming off an injury. I don't even know if he's like active right now. I don't think he is.
No, he's still on my IR.
Yeah, so we don't really know what he's going to come of. I'll put him like behind Derek Carr, and I don't know if there's like much more to say about him at this point. He hasn't even touched an NFL field, so we can't really say much. So
Yeah.
Sam Howell is your quarterback,
I'm gonna put him at Mahomes. No, I'm just kidding.
leading the league in
Viable.
passing yards for those
I,
listening.
I'm gonna put him at top of viable starters.
Okay.
I don't think he's franchise QB quite yet. Obviously he's still young. Like you said, he is leading the league in yards. He's also leading the league by like 50 or 60 attempts and passes, like pass attempts. And
Mhm.
so, not saying the stat is skewed. It's just you're gonna have more yards if you pass way more than any other team. I think Joe Burrow is second and he's first. And I think he has like 30 or so, 35 more completions than any other uh, quarterback.
Quarterback.
And so, like, I think that skews his numbers a little bit, but obviously the sacks hurt him as well, which is another reason why. Like, there's a lot of issues with Washington's line. There's a lot of issues with Washington as a team. Obviously, they got rid of some players. They're tanking. They're looking to the future. And I think Howell can be that future. I'm just not ready to say that quite yet.
Okay.
But in his small sample size, he has looked good.
Hmm.
In his small sample size, he has looked like a young quarterback that has a lot of room to grow, but he also looks like a quarterback that can make plays, that can make the correct reads, that can I mean, granted they lost, but that comeback like touchdown that they had where he like threw it in between like three or four, like just I mean, it was a pretty decent sized pocket that he threw it in, but he had to fit it over defenders and under the safety for them to score. Like those types of throws, those big time throws in big time moments, he can make them. I would just like to um, see that for a longer period of time, I guess. But I think easily if he does this next year, cool franchise quarterback.
Yeah. So he's moving up fast for you,
Yep.
but you're still hesitant. Okay. I,
Yeah.
I think that's like kind of fair. I think I would have him in the back end of franchise, but I don't hate your argument at all. The other thing too, comparing him to a guy like Justin Fields. This is a guy that was a what like 11th overall pick, and Sam Howell. They're like,
Hmm.
there's a reason why. Even though he probably shouldn't have been that far down, but like he got picked in the 5th round, so
Hmm.
we still have to like see a little bit more out of him. So I have Jalen Hurts. I've been very critical of this man in the past couple years, just being a Cowboys fan and everything. But I'm eliminating the bias and the hate, and I'm gonna put him behind Joe Burrow and in front of Josh Allen. I think Tom Brady said it today: mitigate risk, and I just feel like Jalen Hurts is very calculated in how he plays football when he runs it, when the QB sneak and all that, like just the ability to constantly get those annoying 4th down conversions and all that. Just like it's very annoying to play a guy like him every day because
Hmm.
like I said, everything's just so calculated in how he plays football. And he does have interceptions like here and there. And we want to see improvement in that way, but he also has like the intangibles that are really great when it comes to a quarterback: the leadership, the work ethic, all that kind of like in front of the podium, all that kind of stuff. And so he might lack a little bit when it comes to arm strength or accuracy or whatever. But at the end of the day, I see this guy being a quarterback for the next like 10 years. So Eagles found their
Yeah,
guy.
I will say a little caveat. It's I think it's easy for for
Jalen.
Jalen Hurts to be a little bit more calculated because of who he has around him, because of
Yeah.
what his team is.
Hmm.
When you and part of it is because of him, right? Like because you have one of the probably the best offensive line and you have a strong lower body as well, and like you can get those fourth down, fourth and short, third and short conversions on the QB sneak. I can't stand them calling it the brotherly shove or like whatever. Like just it's a QB sneak. It's QB sneak. Why are we doing this? Um so like because of him they can do that, because of the line they can do that, which then allows them to not have to risk it if it's third and long or third and 5 or 6 yards, those mid-range third downs. they don't have to risk it because they know they can get 1 yard, 2 yards, and still get the first down on 4th.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those types of things help him to be able to look better and mitigate risk.
Yeah.
But part of that is because of his ability as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like he can do that because he has all these other things going for him. Is that Jimmy G?
Yes.
Yeah, 2024 backup.
Where at?
Behind or in front of Hendon Hooker, I guess.
Okay.
I
So you're saying the Raiders made the wrong decision with going with Jimmy G instead of Derek Carr because he's right behind him slightly?
yeah, yep. I mean, I think you could switch either one of those and it'd be the
Yeah.
exact same situation.
Uh-huh.
I think he's proven he's had multiple opportunities to prove himself and he hasn't. And I mean, in my mind, that's just kind of where I sit with it.
So I got Kirk Cousins, another guy that I've really just like said that he's underrated. I love picking the guys that everyone just hates on, and so Kirk Cousins is one of those. And you know, we saw the Netflix series Quarterback and just like the amount of effort that he really puts into this game, and I love that when it comes to somebody who used to play quarterback. And so I'm gonna put him in front of Jared Goff. I think once again, he's another one of those guys that kind of lacks the physical part of the game, but he succeeds everywhere else. And it's a shame that he got hurt because we're really seeing a crazy season out of him this year. And so, I think he's shown. I think I'll put it this way: I think the Vikings should move forward with him, like post injury. I don't think they should move a different direction. Like this is a team that's ready to win. They're showing it now, and they had a rough stint at the beginning, but they have Justin Jefferson, they have Hawkinson, they have Jordan Addison. Their defense looks a lot better than they did last year, and so why not like move forward with this guy? You don't know what you're getting with the future, so
Yeah, I think he's a player that's always been way better than what his reputation is.
yeah.
And
He's the most underrated quarterback voted on by the NFL players. So
yeah, I think it's crazy too because it's like the media does this, and I hate sports media because they're so biased. They hypocritical in their arguments. They only do what serves their argument, what their own biases. But they'll like take a player like Kirk Cousins and be like, well, he's not Patrick Mahomes and he's not Joe Burrow. Okay, so he's not one of the 2 best quarterbacks in the league, so we just throw him as if he's trash. Like those are the arguments that you get in the media all the time. You hear that with Dak, you hear that with all these other quarterbacks because he's not top 3. He's not good.
yeah, right.
I'm like that makes no sense.
Yeah, all these football teams always look for the next best thing, but they don't necessarily get the next best thing. It's kind of what happened with Trey Lance, right? I always say this about Ryan Tannehill, and he's a backup right now, but it's still a guy that played in this league for 10 years, and you can't really hate on that because they didn't have a better option. That's kind of with the Kirk Cousins. It's like, all right, yeah, we'll move forward with a different guy. Who are you going to go get? Like, we don't know if he's going to have success. So
yeah.
Oh, you have Kyler. Okay.
I'm gonna put him at franchise QB, the bottom.
Okay.
I don't like Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
I've never liked Kyler Murray.
Uh-huh.
And not even just because my camera's doing some weird things. Not even just because he went to Oklahoma. Honestly, it's because he went to Allen, and I was working in Allen at the time, and the whole culture in Allen, I hate it. But if you're from Allen, sorry, it's just the way it is. You probably agree with me, unless you're a middle-aged adult. Yeah, he's good. Obviously, he had a very good comeback game this past yesterday. So I like a lot of his intangibles. I also just think he's not a good decision maker under pressure, unless he has the ability to run it, in which obviously he's going to trust his legs. But I think he's a franchise QB. I'm just not sold that that there aren't better options potentially.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly for where the Cardinals are in the draft, like depending on how it all shakes up, I would consider just completely starting over and getting rid of Kyler. But that's not to say that Kyler couldn't go to another franchise and be their franchise QB.
Yeah, I think that's kind of just how the Cardinals are to where they're like really in a full rebuild situation to where it might be better to go get a guy like, Drake May or whatever and kind of just reset. But I agree. I believe in Kyler, honestly. I think this injury's humbled him as well. We'll see what actually happens, but I just feel he's been getting just thrashed on by the media for the last year, and we'll just see how he shows up, and we'll see what happens after that. I have Lamar Jackson. He's tough. I'm gonna put him. I'm gonna do this right here. I think he's playing MVP caliber football right now, and he's another guy that I just feel like the Ravens haven't really given him the talent to help him, and we're kind of seeing it this year. Like Zay Flowers is helping him a lot, and Mark Andrews and everything, and he is like one of the lead MVPs right now. And I just think he won MVP, and to me, he's still in the top 5. He lacks accuracy, I think, and we're still waiting for him to kind of show as like a true passer. But at the end of the day, just the way that he plays football, he's just such a X factor to where he's more of just like like pure talented athlete than kind of a guy like Jared Goff who might be a better thrower, but you don't have to scheme around him like you do Lamar. So
yeah.
So you have Will Levis.
Will Levis. I'm gonna put him at viable starter for now, at the top.
Okay, in front of Howell.
Yeah, okay. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, I am. I'm just gonna stick with it.
Okay.
I like him. The only reason I say that is I feel like Washington was in a position where they had to go with Howell, and or maybe it was just in their best interest too. It maybe wouldn't have been like their top choice as far as like all options in the NFL. You know what I mean? Whereas I think Will Levis, it's like, okay, we have to make a decision. We're gonna choose to put our rookie in. Like it feels like a little bit more chosen than forced for Will Levis, which is why I put him above Sam Howell.
Okay, I think I think Levis has more like pure quarterback to him than like Howell does. I don't know how to explain it. Just like better arm strength and everything.
That's what I was gonna say. When I watch,
like he has higher upside than Howell.
Yeah,
but whatever that means. But
no, yeah. When I watch Will Levis play, I feel confident in who he is as a quarterback. Whereas Sam Howell, I don't quite. Obviously, again, Sam Howell's been playing very well. I'm just saying, like, Will Levis looks like he's kind of ready to be an NFL quarterback. He just has to learn the speed of the game and some of the reads and some of the schemes and like all these things that every rookie quarterback's gonna have to come in and learn.
Yeah.
So I like where he is now. Obviously, he hasn't even had a full season, but I so far really like what I'm seeing from Will Levis.
Yeah, he was definitely a guy that I just had no faith in coming into the draft. And I mean, I guess I was like kind of proven right because he fell all the way to the second round when he was projected as like a top 10 quarterback or top 10 pick. But at the same time, now people are like buying back into him. So we'll see what happens with that. I have Jordan Love. This is a guy that was really hot on coming into the season. And my dynasty trade, I got rid of him. I sold him. I don't know, man. This is tough. I'm gonna put him in front of Daniel Jones for now, but like I don't know if he's their quarterback next year. I'll put it that way. I think with the whole contract situation that happened with the Packers and they didn't like extend him and the fact that he's been a backup for 3 years and you just would have expected a lot more out of him. And he has flashes of brilliance. You're like, wow, this guy's really good. And then he throws like 5 bad passes back to back to back. And you're like, what is this guy? And then next thing you're like, oh my God, this guy is like the second coming and then bad again. So I think he has like one of the worst completion percentages in the NFL right now, and we're seeing it live. But at the same time, once again, we talk about weapons and stuff, and the Packers don't have a lot surrounding him either, so it's tough. But I don't know. I it's low trajectory for me. He's doing this, so I could definitely see him being a backup next year. But
yeah, I'm mad at you because in my other fantasy league, I drafted him trusting you,
yeah,
and he's sitting on my bench currently.
I moved quick with that guy.
Yeah.
He was one of those guys that I thought could be kind of like a boom, right? To where, you're sitting behind Rodgers. All you got to do is just be bad Rodgers, like what Rodgers did in his last season, and they could be like a playoff team. And then, once again, it's the consistency that we need to see out of him.
Yeah,
So,
luckily I also had C.J. Stroud in that one, so
nice,
he's my starter.
Yeah.
Mac Jones, I don't know if you'll agree with this.
Okay.
I'm going to put him on the back end of viable starters.
Oh, okay.
Only reason is as a team, I feel like the Patriots are just in a really bad position.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think with like as many injuries as they've had on defense and losing some of their guys, it puts their offense in a worse spot throughout and the entirety of a game.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's low end for a reason because when I watch him, I see somewhat similar to Jordan Love. It's like I see moments where it's like, okay, this guy is a good quarterback or can be a good quarterback. And then you have just abysmal throws, interception after interception. And it's just kind of things. When things go wrong, he seems to fall apart. And so that's why I put him at the back end. But I still think there's a lot of potential there for him to be really good.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I agree with the Patriots thing that you're saying, but at the same time, I've never been like a real big fan of Mac Jones. The fact that he was even like a first round pick was crazy to me. I think he's more of like a third round, fourth round kind of guy. I just don't really see the talent with him. But last year, I thought the Patriots were extremely cocky with their whole like offensive coordinator thing. They're almost moving as if they had Tom Brady still, and maybe that's just the Belichick way. But I think he's a backup. But like I could see your debate. Like I thought I would have him at mid, and then when you said that, I thought you were going to put him at backup. And then you put him the other direction. So
I knew you would have him mid.
Yeah. So I got Patrick Mahomes, and of course we're gonna put him right next to his brother, or into his brother's tier, Jackson Mahomes tier. So we're gonna put him there. I at this point, like you were saying before the podcast, that we're seeing not the greatest form of Mahomes right now. But to me, I think at the end of his career, we might be talking about like greatest ever. And so, he's had his slips here and there, but at the end of the day, like I just feel like he's the undeniable one until proven otherwise. So, so you got Matt Ryan. So have fun with that, whatever you want to do.
2024 backup, I guess.
Where?
Bottom all the way down.
Okay.
Really quick from Mahomes too. I think it says a ton about Mahomes that his weapons continue to get worse and worse, and they're still up there.
They have the bye week in the AFC.
Spot. Yeah, like that. I think that's huge. He's throwing it to Travis Kelce, and he still completes it. Like, what he's gonna do. You know what he has to do. He has no weapons around him other than Kelce. He has receivers that drop it like multiple times a game. Can't get open, bad route running, or even when it's good route running, they drop it. Like all of these issues, they've never really had a running back that's like a staple. Pacheco's good. Don't get me wrong. Not to, clown him, but I'm just saying I don't consider him a top running back.
Mm-hmm.
And so to do it with no weapons is just insane.
Yeah. And like you said, they have absolutely no one at receiver. It's literally Kelce and like wide receiver fives almost. Like none of those guys are worthy.
They wouldn't start on like any other team.
Yeah, no, they would barely get playing time. So I got Davis Mills. I will say this: I don't know who's going to get C.J. Stroud right now, but if you put Davis Mills on the Texans, they would not be good. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a clear difference between C.J. Stroud and Mills. Um, I mean, I'll put him like in front of. They're like here, maybe. I don't even know. He's like around there. He's whatever. He's like a mid tier
Yeah.
backup. So you got Kenny Pickett. He's a very
Gosh.
controversial quarterback as well.
I mean, I'll put him viable starter above, definitely above Mac Jones. We'll just put him there.
Okay.
I put him above Baker.
Okay.
I think just because less time in the NFL will.
You're putting him right next to his draftee, Sam
Yeah.
Howell.
I actually was pretty high on Pickett coming into the season, like before preseason. I felt pretty good about the direction he was going. Right? I think most
Yeah,
people probably did based
I
on how he
think
finished the season.
his like final 8 games, he had like no interceptions in the second half
Yeah.
of the season.
And then obviously he had his preseason, which I used to dump him for a first round pick in our dynasty league because I knew what was coming, but I didn't know it would be as bad as it is.
Uh-huh.
Even with their record, it's way worse than what I thought he was going to be.
Uh-huh.
And so I think he's a viable starter. I think he shows that he is a good quarterback. But and obviously any quarterback is a good quarterback to be in the NFL to begin with. But like man, he's got a lot of improving he needs to do in order to even just stay in viable starter tier.
I got Brock Purdy. We'll probably disagree on this one here. Um, I'm gonna put him at the front of viable starters. I know you're hot on Purdy. I just don't know if he's a franchise quarterback yet. We've talked earlier about the situation surrounding a guy like this, and he's playing great in it, and he's looking the part. But I'm still kind of. We saw the removal of Trent Williams. We saw the removal of Debo, and he started to struggle. And I just don't know if he has the talent of the guys ahead of him in that other tier. And I'm kind of with you with your Howell take, and like I can move him, but I'm still waiting to see it. Like I need to see a little bit more out of him. And once again, he's like climbing, and we're looking at it right now. He's still in like the top 15, but I don't know if I can put him in that like higher tier just yet because to me the 49ers might even be easier than playing for the Eagles. So
Yeah, I actually agree with you there just because obviously, yeah, I love Purdy way more than you do.
mhm.
But those few games without Debo, without Trent, he doesn't have the arm strength to make throws that like need to be made in a moment. Like he has to be able to anticipate a throw a little bit more than like some of the other quarterbacks above him.
Mhm.
And I think that can obviously and has currently already has hurt him. And so we'll see. But yeah, no, I agree with you on viable starter.
So you got Anthony Richardson.
Yeah,
We saw what was our sample size on him this year? 5 games.
I know. I mean, I think you. I mean, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put him low end franchise QB,
Okay. Where at?
just all the way bottom. Yeah,
Okay.
just because of the low sample size, I don't feel comfortable saying. I mean, I wouldn't actually hate putting him above Kyler, but just such a small sample size. But you did see a lot of good things out of him. I think he's a very raw talent
Mm-hmm.
that does have a lot of refining that needs to happen. And so, in some ways, I'm not saying the injury was the best thing that happened to him, but in some ways, he got 5 games of NFL experience, and now he gets to sit and watch it and learn and study and not be thrown into a situation where maybe he started and he looked pretty good. And then a lot of time for rookies, it's like, all right, then it just goes downhill once teams get film and figure him out and things like that.
It's funny you mention
So-
that because when he was drafted, a lot of people saw him as a raw talent. And so it's almost like the reverse to where I was kind of shocked when the Colts announced that he was starting day
Mm-hmm.
one, because you see a lot of these guys and they don't rush them like that.
Yeah.
And they were like, screw it, we're just throwing him out there. But when he was drafted, he's what, like 21 years old basically,
Mm-hmm.
and he played great. Like I think I agree. I think he's a franchise quarterback already.
Yeah.
So
We were very surprised to see how well he did going into it, considering, like you said, we all just knew he was raw talent. Like, he was very good,
mhm.
had a lot of intangibles, but was he the most NFL ready quarterback? No.
Yeah.
At least that, that was kind of what we saw going into the draft and going into the season.
Hmm.
Outperformed expectations. Not saying, obviously, I think we clearly like CJ Stroud is significantly better right now, but again, injuries. So
Yeah.
I think it's clear that you can feel confident if you're the Colts to continue moving forward with him.
Yeah. I agree. So I got Desmond Ritter. I've been just bashful on this guy this year. I don't see it. I never did. Um, I'm gonna put him like ahead of Jimmy G. I I just feel like you put any other quarterback on the Falcons and they would just be killing it right now with all the weapons
Mhm.
that they have. And it might be like an Arthur Smith issue, but I don't know. I have watched a lot of his games, and I think he makes dumb decisions sometimes. And once again, we talked about it. It was a COVID year and it was weird, and the draft was strange, and you would expect a lot more from a guy that had plenty of games at Cincinnati, and he just, to me, just seems like he looks like a decent backup. Like I was talking to Miles about this. It's like he could be Mariota, and what's
Mhm.
Mariota, a backup in the league? I'm talking about like current Mariota, right?
Mhm.
Like not even the few years of Tennessee that he had. To me, he's just, the Falcons need to draft a quarterback or go get a
Yep.
quarterback, because I don't see him as a starter. And we're
As
watching it. He got benched like for Heineke. So
Yeah, as much criticism as Arthur Smith has gotten, and deserved criticism, I believe, um, to have a good defense, a really good offensive line, a really good backfield, whether it is Bijan or Algier, Kyle Pitts and Drake London, like, you don't have the best receiving core, but you still have good weapons to throw to.
mhm.
For them to not be better and to not score as much, again, yes, part of it goes to coaching. The other part is, well, who else then? It's Ritter.
Yeah,
It's just like, when you look at the talent around him, you can see who the weak link is on the offense.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
that like London game that they played was just really ugly to me. There was like another game right before that I just felt they could be doing so much more. And
mhm,
I feel like he's almost in the perfect system to even be successful. Like they don't even have to do a lot for them to succeed, and they're still not even doing that. Like he still
mhm.
got taken out. You have
Yeah.
huge guys that even when things go to shit, you can just toss it up to them, and even that's not happening well. So it's just,
Mhm.
yeah. Who's next? Is it you? Right? Yeah.
Me, Aaron Rodgers. I'm gonna put him the top below Herbert at franchise QB,
Okay.
but below Herbert though.
Oh, below Herbert. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Reason there is for age. I mean, honestly, I know we talked about that we didn't want age to be a huge deciding factor. If it was, I'd put him at viable starter, just because how many more years does he have left, if any? I know he says he wants to continue playing, and it looks like he will.
Hmm.
So they'll put him at franchise QB for that reason. He's still one of the best. I mean, he's one of the best to ever play the game, and so it would be insanely disrespectful not to have him this high. I still think he's very capable.
Hmm. Yeah, I think he's still in the top 10, top 8
Mhm.
conversation. It's a shame that we didn't see him on the Jets, because that would have been just super fun, honestly.
Yep.
I got Russell Wilson. That's a guy I've been just completely critical of, like, his entire career, honestly. And I'm almost reversing it now to where I like don't hate him as much as I used to. Like even today, I was cheering for them, which would like never have happened. Um, but I don't know. That's tough. I think I'm gonna put him like right behind Purdy. I think I put him like right there. I think this season we're seeing that last year might not have been his fault. Like he's playing kind of closer to what he was in Seattle, but at the same with that all being said, I still think there are like problems within his game or just like how he goes about himself, I guess. Like but I don't know. He might be one of the like the most difficult quarterbacks to rank. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
But I think I'll put him right there. What's your counter argument, if anything?
No, I mean, I think that's fair. It's hard because obviously prior to his time in the Broncos, you would be like, oh yeah, franchise QB all the way.
Yeah,
So it's just like he's played a lot better the last 3 games. They're 3-0, and he is looking a little bit better, but that doesn't make up for
the
a
just
season and a half of mediocre.
atrocity of last season. Yeah,
Yeah, mediocre at best last year.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if you were to ask me at this time, I would be basically saying, or if you were to ask me like last year, I would be saying the Broncos are 100% going to draft a quarterback. And
Mhm.
now I don't know. Maybe they don't, especially with like
Right.
his contract and everything. So
Mhm.
it's tough.
Yeah.
So you got Matt Stafford.
I think Stafford's equally as difficult to place because of his recent injuries. He's a very, very good quarterback. I think he's a little bit easier because he's above Wilson.
Hmm.
I'm gonna put him at franchise quarterback. I'm debating on either before or behind Geno Smith. I'll say in front of Geno.
Okay.
Yeah, right there.
When I
I
was
think
moving I thought he was Jared Goff for a second. He like
they
they're
do
almost
right. They
identical.
look so similar.
It's funny.
Part of me, I'm not gonna lie, part of me wanted to put him at just the top of viable starters, just because I really feel like kind of how we talked about Derek Carr. It seems like some of these old quarterbacks that goes downhill pretty quick,
Hmm.
and so I was gonna put him at the top of viable starters just because maybe that might be the case with him. But I actually think he's better than Derek Carr ever was, and so I don't think he should be afforded that same type of mentality. So he's been good. Obviously, he has Super Bowl, and so you know he went to the Rams. He won a Super Bowl. He was really good with the Lions before that. Like he's always been a very good quarterback.
Hmm.
There's never been a moment, maybe early in his career. It's just hard to remember now, but I just remember always like the times that the Cowboys played him and just watching his career. I've always been impressed.
Yeah. He's another what like number one pick that got put into a shitty situation and he pulled it out finally and got a Super Bowl. It's funny
Yeah,
you put him right behind Goff. I was doing one of those like quarterback filters and I was in the same situation where I was like, oh my god, I just got Stafford and there's Goff. Is Goff better than him now? And I did it. I put Goff over
yeah.
him. So I think I agree with where you put him. I have CJ Stroud. I think I found a spot where I want to put him. This guy, he might be my MVP this year, like legitimately. I'm trying to think because if you look at his stats, he has like 2 interceptions and
Hmm.
17 touchdowns on the Texans. And, I was talking about it earlier. If you put Davis Mills on the Texans, we're not seeing this. Um, so I'm going to I don't like to overreact too quickly when it comes to, a guy that's only played 10 games, but you got to love what you're seeing out of this guy right now. So, I'm going to put him behind Aaron Rodgers. I
Okay.
think he is in the top 10 or around like top 12 and he could be moving fast if he keeps trajectory. That's how I see him.
I genuinely thought you were gonna put him in him.
I kind of figured that, like the way that I was talking, that I was going to put him
Yeah,
up there. Yeah,
and I honestly I wouldn't hate it. I mean, when
yeah.
you're playing MVP caliber, um, I don't hate that.
Hmm. So you got
All
Ryan
right,
Tannehill.
yeah. I mean, I guess 2024 backup behind Ritter.
Okay.
I think I would take him over all those other QBs
Hmm.
right now. Like, I mean, you said it. He's played in the league for a long time, and he's done it fairly successfully. He hasn't been obviously some incredible um, QB, but he's had good seasons. He's had good years. He's had good stats um, in moments throughout his career, and so I don't see any reason to not want him on your team as a backup. Potentially could start for other teams, but um, I wouldn't hate a conversation where he deserves to be mid.
Hmm.
But again, like sometimes these quarterbacks just drop off and the game evolves and they can't keep up, or something goes wrong and they just lose a step, lose a touch off their power to throw it, or things like that. And it's hard to recover those types of things and change like how you play the game. It's hard to change that in the NFL. And so for that reason, I'm keeping him at backup.
Yeah, I think he's a backup at this point. I like I said earlier, I've always been kind of a Tannehill stan just because I feel like he gets a lot of hate from people. But you've kind of seen that Will Levis has taken the step over him. I think Levis offers more to get victories than
Mhm.
Tannehill does. Um, okay, I have Trevor Lawrence. This is kind of tough. I wasn't thinking about it beforehand.
I'm actually
He
excited that you get him
Why? Because you're
because
curious.
I know you love Trevor Lawrence, but I think it's a tough spot. Like, where
Yeah,
do you rank him?
yeah, yeah. Let's see. I'll put it this way before, and I'm talking through it while I still think about where I rank him. But I've always been hot on Trevor Lawrence. I'll say that. But like people like Nick Wright have made me not like him as much. It's one of those things. It's like I knew after the first season that was a wash because his coaching situation, everything, everyone was counting him out. I'm like, guys, you can't knock this guy for that season, and everyone like wrote him off basically. And then after last season, I think people just like completely overcorrected him. They're like, "Oh, he's top 5." I'm like, "Whoa, like what?" So, that's how I feel about him, and I think I'm gonna put him here. I think, yeah, I think I feel good about that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, he's still got a long career ahead of him,
Yeah.
and I think I think it's hard not to put him where you did.
Hmm.
Like, in my mind, I think there's a world in which you could say he's even a little bit lower than that.
Yeah.
Also, a world in which you say he's a little bit higher than that. Like, I think there's arguments both ways for him, which then I think puts him where you'd put him.
I think in my head he's a top 10 quarterback, but like
Yeah.
barely top 10. That's how I feel. And like I said, I see a lot of people putting him way too high, and I don't know
Mhm.
if there is obvious problems within his game. He's very turnover
Mhm.
prone. I think he's the second highest turnover quarterback since 2021. Like he once again he shows moments of brilliance, and he's the number one pick and he's this generational talent. But at the end of the day, there are problems like with it. And that's why when it comes to the Jags, I've always been very hesitant about making them once again this team that's in the same discussion as the Ravens and
Mhm.
these other like high tier AFC teams because I don't have that same opinion of Trevor Lawrence, and this is a Jags team that's in a very bad AFC South. And so to me it's all
Mhm.
kind of you know there's like too much hype. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
So
It does seem weird, like, people sometimes are too ready to give praise to people and teams and put them in a contender category when they also know, because a lot of these people have been around the game long enough or played the game to know that it takes experience, it takes some level of failing to understand then what it does take to reach that next level. Trevor Lawrence doesn't know that. I personally think he's still kind of a little cocky and thinking, like you said, I'm this generational talent. I have what it takes. I know I can make the throws. I have the arm strength. I have the reads. I have this vision that other people don't have that I do. And so he tries to make these throws and make these plays to prove to himself or to other people or whatever that he is who people thought he was. And that's what causes these turnovers because when he's on, he does look like that generational talent.
Mm-hmm.
And he does make some throws that it's like, how are you making that throw? Your second year in the NFL, and you made these throws. But I also think that that's what hurts him. And so if he can dial that back, and I think there's still going to be some time where he has to learn the hard way what it takes as far as humility, work ethic. Not that he doesn't have it. I'm just saying people will tell you that have been there that there's work ethic and then there's championship level work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
so
it's funny you mentioned that. I was listening to a podcast, I forget what, today, I think, or yesterday, about him. And they were kind of saying, like, does Trevor Lawrence truly love the game of football?
mm-hmm.
And, we were talking about it earlier with a guy like Jalen Hurts or Joe Burrow, who's, like, literally autistic almost when it comes to the game of football. And you're kind of like,
say that?
I think, Miles said it, so I think I can. I don't think autism is like a bad thing anymore. It used to be.
No, it's not.
But I think everyone is slightly. But when it comes to Burrow, you can tell when you listen to him, he literally only genuinely cares about football. And I feel like Jalen Hurts is almost kind of in that same, and even like Patrick Mahomes, right? Like they live, sleep, eat football. That's all they think about. And like Trevor Lawrence, you're still kind of waiting for that out of him. So. Yep. Are you next or me?
Yes. No, you
No,
put
you were.
Trevor, you put Trevor Lawrence. So it's me.
Yeah. You have Kyle Trask.
Kyle Trask. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's just like a matter of where I place him, right?
Yeah.
Where would you like? I mean,
I would put him like here.
Yeah, that's what. Put him there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to deflect my thing. We already know he's going 2024 backup. So
yeah, right. Okay, I'll do Trey Lance. I mean, once again, he's like a backup with slight upside.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put him like here, probably. I think.
Okay.
Not that early. I don't know. He might just be like a glorified backup at this point. I will say, any freaking person out there that's been calling for Dak's head for Trey Lance, I'm clipping this on Instagram, and you're a freaking casual, and I hate you, okay? And I'm a Trey Lance stan. I used to love this guy, but y'all piss me off, bro. I see them in the freaking comments after the 49ers game. Holy shit.
I think it's funny too, like some of these people that don't understand the structure of the NFL, like in the middle of a game, I see comments calling for Trey Lance to play, but he's in the game, he's on the team currently as an as-needed quarterback. Like he's that third quarterback that if both of our QBs get hurt, that's the only chance he has to play.
Yeah.
And people are like, why are we putting Trey Lance in? Why is Cooper Rush in? It's like because Trey Lance isn't even good enough to beat out Cooper Rush.
Right.
And he's only there if Dak and Rush both get hurt.
Right. He literally quite is an emergency quarterback, and he also is an emergency quarterback. If the only reason why we traded for him is if the Dak thing like completely went south, and we're like, all right, screw it, let's go with this guy with some upside. Like that's it. So yeah. I mean, we'll see. Maybe there's like a world, but at the same time, God, it's just. Once I saw those comments, I literally any single person that I saw calling for Trey Lance, I'm like, you literally just don't even watch football at all.
Yeah,
you don't watch football, or maybe you're like a North Dakota or wherever he went, South Dakota. Am I even thinking the right college? I don't know.
Honestly, I can't even think at this point. I'm so tired. Sick, 3-month-old and everything.
Yeah.
All right.
So you have Tua, yeah.
I'm gonna put him in front of Trevor Lawrence.
Okay. So
I think
I'm gonna do this so we don't have because later on I'm
okay,
gonna grill
yeah,
you on
that's
it
that's
anyways. So
okay, that's fair.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I think obviously Tua is playing very, very well the last couple years. Last year is unfortunate with his concussions, and so this year he's coming in and he's looking really good. Unfortunately, they're not beating the top teams. They did look a lot better against the Chiefs than getting blown out by the good teams like they have a couple times already this year, and so I mean the numbers they put up speak for themselves. It obviously helps when you have a coach that's putting together a team that's just the fastest team in NFL history, probably. And so it definitely helps to get separation to, um, cause threats on the backside to then open up the middle of the field or short field. And when you have Tyreek Hill who can just run, and you have Jalen Waddle who can run, and you have all these receivers, so if you push them deep, you open up the middle of the short field, throwing to other guys who are just as fast, like the amount of yards after the catch and all the things you can do, it sets them up well. And so he's in a good spot. But obviously he's a very accurate quarterback, and I think he's part of their success. It's not like Brock Purdy where there's just so much good going on around him that you could kind of plug and play with most people. I think you can't just plug and play and have the same success that they're having.
yeah. I Tua's a guy that I've like come around on. I used to be really low on him, and I've put him up. I think around where you have him is probably where I would have had him. I think maybe yeah, probably around more Goff, but I could see the
Yeah.
argument. Like I think Tua could be if he won MVP this year. At the end of the day, like I don't think I would hate it, and I feel a
Mhm.
lot of people would hate that. But I think he is, you know, he's very safe with the football. He once again he kind of lacks that high talent, but at the same time like he's kind of like Dak, right? To where he's like accurate. He's got the QB intangibles type thing, but he's never going to be top five, I guess.
Mhm.
So I have Deshaun Watson. I don't like this guy. I thought there was like a glimpse of hope with him, but I don't see it anymore. I'm gonna
Yeah.
put him like behind Howell.
Okay.
I think he's toasted. I think he's like in that Russell Wilson kind of area, but Russell Wilson is outplaying him. And the Browns, I mean, this is a team that they have all the weapons on the offensive side, and he's still not playing Deshaun Watson level football. And that's just how I see it. Like, we're talking about a top 3 offensive line. Nick Chubb, obviously, he's not there, but it's like Amari Cooper, Njoku, Elijah Moore. I just, you would expect a guy like this to be putting up a little bit better stats than he is. So I think he's a
Yeah.
starter, but he's not in like the franchise quarterback discussion for me right now.
Yeah.
You have
Is
Carson
that
Wentz.
Carson
Yeah.
Wentz? Put him above Davis Mills, I guess.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
We'll
right there.
see. We'll see if he gets some game time with the Rams.
Yeah.
Okay. I have Bryce
He's not a
Young.
backup I would hate to have, but
I have Bryce Young. I personally think he's a franchise guy, but like maybe I'm too hot on him. I think I'm gonna put him like currently, just like how he's. Fuck, this is tough. Like here, what would you do for debate?
I think I would put him higher on viable starters.
Okay, like up here.
Like, yeah, I was gonna say in front of
Okay,
Russ.
that's what I'm like. I'm so hurt by the Howell thing, or not hurt, but like I have Howell higher, so it's hard for me to like put guys like
Yeah,
that's kind of like my take on it.
yeah. I think as we've gone on, because Howell was placed so early on
Mhm.
that it's like okay, as you see the list develop, I'm like okay, yeah, he should be a little bit higher.
Yeah,
Um, But no, I think Stroud, you can see. I agree with you. Like I think you can see is kind of like Fields last year, where it's like, yeah, their record doesn't look good, and yeah, there's some mistakes, but you definitely see the potential of, they're like, yeah, he's going to be a starter in the NFL for a long time.
Hmm. Yeah, I wanted to put him at franchise QB, but at the same time, you have to have at least some question, especially with how CJ Stroud is playing through
Yeah.
his, through his weapons. And so it's like, here's CJ Stroud, who's just completely outplaying what he should be. And then here's Bryce Young. So that's how I
Hmm.
feel about that.
Yeah. Last Zach Wilson, I'll put him at the top of backup. I mean,
Okay.
he's literally only playing because he's a backup, and
Yeah.
and Aaron Rodgers got hurt. So
How do I?
like doing okay, I guess. Not really.
Yeah. I I think he's a backup to me.
Yeah.
But he's another guy that he's kind of like Jordan Love to me a little bit, to where you're like, all right, he's like, you can see it, and then
Hmm.
the other 80% of the time you're like, this guy's a backup.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I view Zach Wilson. So
Yeah.
I know you have you have a baby, so should
She's
we go
she's
through this
quiet
or?
now. Yeah, we
Okay.
can go through it.
Okay. So we're at an hour and 10. So I don't know how much time you want to spend on this, anyways. But
I mean, we just spend a few. It's pretty quick. I know I would move Mac Jones down to mid.
oh, okay. So you are retracting
Yep.
here.
Yep.
Okay.
I would maybe even put Jordan Love above him,
Okay.
to be
I'm
honest.
I'm cool with that. I would put Howell higher.
Yeah.
How much higher?
Um.
I think I'm like
I
legit ready to
but
say he's a franchise, but I also
I
don't
would
want
put
to.
him below Purdy.
Okay.
Uh.
I think I'm okay with that.
Okay. It's hard because it's all of it's a mix of what you see versus. I'll say this. I think if it wasn't for him, like in leading the league in sacks by a large margin, I would put him higher.
Okay.
But I do think that's a very learnable thing to like get the ball out quicker, or to throw it away, or to, you know what I mean?
Uh huh.
So I think that's something that can very easily be
I'm
fixed.
gonna I'm gonna change this to like backups or old hags.
Okay.
I was trying to think of like another tier, but our
Yeah.
because I was gonna group Derek Carr, Tannehill, and Jimmy G together as like one tier and try to come up with
Yeah.
one, but then it like kind of messes up a little bit.
Yeah.
But just like as a joke, but
No, that's fair. Is there anything like in the him or franchise QB that you would change?
I would move Herbert like at least over Dak.
Dak?
Yeah. If you like
Okay.
hate it because it was yours, we don't have to do that. But
No, no, that's fine.
okay. And then I think I would still, out of respect, put Rogers into him. And then I was
Okay.
even thinking in my head as like a troll, we could just like put his own tier and just put like Aaron Rodgers or like what's his vaccine thing or something.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm good with that too. That one was hard because I'm like,
What's his Aaron Rodgers? Oh, Pfizer. Mr. Pfizer? Yeah, let's do that. That would be funny.
a whole separate.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's do like I'm gonna mess this up. Let's do like that maybe. Okay.
There we go.
Yeah. Oh wait, we can make them yellow. Okay. That's solid. Okay. Yeah, I think that's like kind of funny, and we'll do that.
Yeah.
Have his own tier because once again he's kind of in that like weird situation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, she's coughing.
Rip.
Hopefully she doesn't wake up.
I mean, I think I'm pretty like good with most of this.
Yeah.
As we were going through I feel like you might be somewhat disturbed about the Geno thing, or no? Like, would you have had him at viable starters instead?
I mean, I would, but I don't. I don't hate it.
Yeah,
I think he's playing very well.
yeah,
Like I said, I think because he got so much hype last season,
hmm
it makes it where it's like, oh, he's not playing as good. So in my mind, he's like had a bigger drop than he really has.
hmm
You know what I mean? It's like he really didn't have a drop. It's just he's not hyped right now.
yeah. Okay.
And like I said, a lot of it's hard when it's you start putting people in and you realize, oh, maybe I should have changed this guy from earlier. I should have put him higher or stuff like that. But
hmm I think I feel like overall pretty decent about it.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I'm good with it.
I had a question. What's a quarterback that you were high on this year that failed you, and then the opposite?
All right, I'm gonna have to go quick because Tanner's crying.
Yeah, you're
That I
good.
was high on that failed me. Jordan Love. I know that was probably the same
That
for
was
you.
mine. Yeah.
And then one that I was low on that surprised me. I would say like this might be surprising, but I would say Baker.
Okay. Mine was Levis, I think.
Okay.
I guess you could like maybe say Russell Wilson also,
Yeah.
but
So,
all
all
right.
right.
All right, guys. Well, appreciate for watching and let us know which what you hate about it. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of
Oh yeah,
people
we're gonna get
in the
absolutely
Instagram
flamed.
comments. So,
Yep.
all right, guys. See y'all.